I never imagined my perfect life would crumble so fast. At 35, I had everything a man could want: a stable software engineering career in Boston, 7 wonderful years married to Amanda, and supportive parents who always had my back. Or so I thought. The devastating diagnosis came without warning. I was infertile. I could never father children. What shocked me most was not the medical verdict, but how quickly my wife and parents transformed from loving family into cold strangers when they realized I could not give them what they wanted. If you are watching this video right now, drop a comment letting me know where you are tuning in from. Hit that like button and subscribe to join our community of real-life stories. Growing up, I was surrounded by nothing but love. My parents, George and Diane, created a traditional but warm home where achievement and family values were celebrated equally. Dad, a retired military man, taught me discipline and responsibility, while Mom filled our house with warmth and encouragement. As their only child, I absorbed their dreams and expectations like a sponge, eager to make them proud. School came naturally to me. I excelled in math and science, eventually earning a scholarship to MIT for computer engineering. Every milestone was marked by proud smiles and celebrations. My graduation day remains one of my fondest memories. Dad standing tall, fighting back tears, and Mom squeezing my hand, saying, "You have made us so proud, Kent." My career took off quickly after college. I landed a position at a prestigious tech firm in Boston, developing software for medical devices. The work was challenging and rewarding, and within a few years I had established myself as a valuable team member with a promising future. It was during a technology conference in Chicago that I first met Amanda. She was representing her marketing firm at the same event, and we bumped into each other during a networking mixer. There was an immediate connection beyond physical attraction. Amanda was brilliant, ambitious, and shared my drive for success. We exchanged business cards which turned into coffee, then dinner, and soon regular video calls between Boston and her home in Philadelphia. After a year of long-distance dating, Amanda transferred to the Boston branch of her company. 6 months later, I proposed on a sailboat in Boston Harbor. When she said yes, it felt like my life was following the perfect script. Our wedding was everything we had hoped for. My parents adored Amanda. From the start. They saw in her the perfect partner for their son. Dad gave a touching speech about welcoming her to our family, and Mom presented her with a family heirloom necklace, a gesture that brought Amanda to tears. The first 5 years of our marriage were genuinely happy. We bought a beautiful townhouse just outside the city. We both advanced in our careers, took amazing vacations to Europe and Asia, and built a social circle of like-minded professionals. We discussed having children someday, but agreed to establish ourselves professionally first. Amanda and I were partners in the truest sense, supporting each other through long work hours and celebrating each success together. Everything changed as we approached our 6th anniversary. It started subtly with innocent questions from my mother during Sunday dinners. "Have you two thought about when you might start a family?" she would ask, glancing meaningfully at Amanda. My father would chime in with comments about how rewarding it was to be a parent, how he looked forward to teaching his grandchildren to fish and camp like he had taught me. Amanda began noticing babies and children everywhere. She would linger near playground fences, watching mothers push swings and catch toddlers at the bottom of slides. Her social media feeds filled with announcements of pregnancies and first birthdays from college friends and co-workers. One evening after a dinner party with friends who had just announced they were expecting twins, Amanda turned to me in our kitchen. "Kent, I think I am ready. I want us to start trying for a baby." The timing made sense. We were both established in our careers, financially stable, and our townhouse had that empty third bedroom we had always vaguely designated as someday the nursery. I wanted to make Amanda happy, and truthfully, the idea of becoming a father had begun taking root in my own heart as well. I imagined teaching my child to code, building science projects together, and creating the same loving foundation my parents had given me. "Let's do it," I agreed, kissing her forehead. "Let's start our family." We approached baby-making with the same efficiency we applied to our professional lives. Amanda tracked her ovulation cycles. We adjusted our diets, started taking vitamins, and scheduled our intimate moments for optimal conception chances. It was mechanical at times, but we were united in purpose. 3 months passed with no success. Then 6. As we approached the 1-year mark, Amanda became increasingly anxious. Each month ended with the same disappointment, sometimes tears. My mother began asking pointed questions about our progress, offering unsolicited advice about positions and timing. My father would make comments about the Johnson family genes being strong, how all the men in his family had fathered children, easily, often joking, that he only had to look at my mother to get her pregnant with me. The pressure was building from all sides. I started noticing changes in Amanda. She became obsessed with pregnancy forums, ordered expensive fertility teas, and scheduled acupuncture sessions. My parents called more frequently each conversation, eventually circling to the topic of grandchildren. After 14 months of trying, I suggested we see a doctor. Amanda immediately agreed. We scheduled appointments with a fertility specialist, Dr. Lawson, who ordered a comprehensive battery of tests for both of us. The waiting period was tense. Amanda was convinced the issue must be with her irregular cycle, while I silently worried about my own contribution. The results came back on a rainy Tuesday. I remember every detail of Dr. Lawson's office. The diplomas on the wall, the box of tissues strategically placed on his desk, the gentle hum of the air purifier in the corner. He reviewed Amanda's tests, first pronouncing her reproductive system in excellent condition. Then he turned to me with a sympathetic expression that made my stomach drop. "Mr. Kent, your tests indicate azoospermia, which means there are no sperm present in your semen. Further genetic testing shows this is due to a congenital condition. I am very sorry to tell you that you will not be able to father biological children." The words crashed into me like a physical blow. I felt the room spin slightly, and Amanda gasping beside me. "Doctor?" Lawson continued speaking, explaining the condition, mentioning terms like Y chromosome, microdeletion, and non-obstructive azoospermia, but his words became background noise to the roaring in my ears. I had failed. Failed at the most fundamental biological function of a man. Failed my wife. Failed my parents. Failed the family name. These thoughts hammered through my mind as Amanda gripped my hand so tightly her nails left marks. The drive home was silent. Amanda stared out the passenger window while I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white. When we arrived home, she finally spoke. "It's going to be okay," she said, her voice unnaturally controlled. "There are options. We need time to process this." That night she held me as I broke down sobbing in a way I had not done since childhood. She whispered reassurances, told me she loved me for who I was, not my ability to produce children. I believed her then. I truly did. The change in Amanda was gradual, but unmistakable. The first week after the diagnosis, she was supportive, researching alternatives, suggesting we could look into sperm donors or adoption. But as days turned into weeks, a distance grew between us. She stopped initiating conversations about our future family. When I brought up adoption, her responses became vague and non-committal. "I just need some time to adjust to all this," she would say quickly, changing the subject. Our bedroom, once a place of intimacy and connection, became increasingly cold. Amanda started going to bed earlier or staying up later than me, avoiding the moment we would normally fall asleep in each other's arms. She stopped reaching for me in the night. When I initiated intimacy, she would find excuses or simply turn away, claiming fatigue or headaches. One evening, I came home early from work and found Amanda sitting on our bed staring at her phone with tears streaming down her face. I rushed to her side, alarmed. "What is wrong? Did something happen?" She quickly wiped her tears and locked her phone screen. "Nothing. Just saw a sad post." Later that night, while she was showering, I did something I had never done before. I checked her phone. The guilt was immediate, but the pain that followed was worse. She had been looking through a photo album, posted by her college roommate Lisa, featuring her 3 children at a pumpkin patch. The comments below showed a conversation that pierced my heart. "Lisa, miss you. When are you and Kent starting your own family? You would be an amazing mom, Amanda. Working on it, but having some unexpected challenges. Not sure it will happen the way we planned. Lisa, anything I can do, Amanda. Unless you can find me a new husband with working sperm, probably not. Kidding. Sort of. I put the phone down, feeling sick. Though she had added kidding, the comment revealed her true feelings more clearly than any conversation we had had since the diagnosis. I was now a defective husband in her eyes. Meals together became an exercise in awkward silence or forced small talk. Amanda began working late more frequently, attending client dinners and networking events that had never been so common before. When she was home, she was physically present but emotionally absent, constantly checking her phone or suddenly remembering work tasks that required immediate attention. I decided to confide in my parents, hoping they would provide the support and perspective I desperately needed. Inviting them for lunch, while Amanda was at a weekend conference, I carefully explained the situation, trying to present the medical facts without emotion, though my voice cracked several times. The response I received shattered another pillar of my world. My father, always my hero and role model, stared at me with an expression I had never seen directed at me before. Disappointment mingled with something close to disgust. "Are you absolutely sure about this, Kent?" he asked, as if I might be lying or mistaken. "Did you get a second opinion? This just does not seem possible in our family." My mother was less confrontational but equally devastating in her reaction. She began to cry. Not tears of sympathy for my pain, but tears for herself. "I always dreamed of being a grandmother," she sobbed. "All my friends are experiencing that joy. What will I tell everyone now, Mom, Dad? This is not something I chose," I said, stunned by their self-centered responses. "I am dealing with this too. I need your support right now." My father cleared his throat, looking uncomfortable. "Of course, son. It's just a shock. The Wilson line has continued unbroken for generations. I never imagined it would end with you." "It does not have to end," I suggested. "Amanda and I could adopt. That child would carry our name, our values." "It's not the same," my father interrupted sharply. "Not the same as your own flesh and blood." He stared into his coffee cup, then added quietly, "What did you do in your life to deserve this, to bring this on our family name?" His words struck me like a physical blow. In that moment I realized that in my father's eyes my worth had always been tied to my ability to continue the family line. All my academic achievements, my career, success, my character, none of it mattered as much as my ability to produce a biological heir. The lunch ended awkwardly with promises to talk more soon that felt hollow and forced. As I watched my parents drive away, I felt more alone than ever before. What followed was a period of escalating tension and betrayal. Amanda became increasingly distant, often coming home late smelling of wine and perfume she did not own. When confronted, she would dismiss my concerns as paranoia or insecurity. One evening, I discovered a text message notification on her laptop that popped up while I was using it with her permission to order takeout. It was from someone named Justin, saying he was looking forward to seeing her again tomorrow. The name was vaguely familiar. Justin had been Amanda's lab partner in college, someone she had mentioned occasionally, but never as a close friend. Over the next few weeks, I noticed Amanda was protective of her phone, taking it with her even for short trips to the bathroom. She began having hushed phone conversations that ended abruptly when I entered the room. Her explanation was always work-related, but the guilty expression that flashed across her face told a different story. Meanwhile, my parents began calling Amanda, directly bypassing me entirely. When questioned, Amanda would shrug and say, "Your mom just wanted to check in," but the conversations always left her looking troubled and distant. The betrayal became undeniable when I overheard a phone conversation between Amanda and my mother. I had come home early from work, still trying to save my marriage by suggesting a surprise dinner out. I heard Amanda's voice from our bedroom, speaking in low, serious tones. "I know, Diane. I have been thinking about it too. Of course, I still love him, but is love enough when such a fundamental part of what I wanted from marriage is impossible? You and George have been so understanding. No, I have not made any decisions yet, but Justin has been a good friend through all this." I stepped back, not wanting to hear more. My own mother was conspiring with my wife, seemingly encouraging her to consider ending our marriage. The two people who should have supported me unconditionally were instead united against me, bonded by their shared disappointment in my biological failure. That night I lay awake beside Amanda, feeling miles apart, though only inches separated us physically. The woman I had loved and trusted, the parents who raised me, all of them now viewed me as inadequate, a disappointment, someone who had failed to fulfill their expectations. The loneliness was crushing. The breaking point came during what should have been a normal family dinner at my parents' house. Amanda and I arrived separately, she directly from work. I, after spending an hour sitting in my parked car, gathering strength for what had become an ordeal rather than a comfort. The dinner began with strained pleasantries. My mother had prepared all my favorite dishes, an apparent peace offering that felt hollow, given the conversations I had overheard. My father was overly jovial, telling stories from work, and asking Amanda detailed questions about her recent projects, while barely acknowledging my presence. As my mother served dessert, an elaborate tiramisu that had always been reserved for special occasions, Amanda cleared her throat and reached for her wine glass, a signal I recognized as preparation for something significant. I have been doing a lot of thinking lately. She began, looking at my parents rather than me, about our future, about family. My father nodded encouragingly. My mother reached across the table to squeeze Amanda's hand. Kent and I, Amanda continued, still not meeting my eyes, are at a crossroads. I think we need some time apart, some space for me to really consider what I want from life. Though I had suspected this was coming, hearing it stated so plainly in front of my parents sent a surge of anger and humiliation through me. Before I could respond, my father spoke. Amanda, dear, we completely understand. This is not what you signed up for when you married Kent. He glanced at me briefly, then back to her. Sometimes life requires difficult decisions. There are alternatives to consider. Alternatives, I asked, my voice tight. My mother jumped in, her tone soothing, but her words devastating. Kent, honey, there are ways Amanda could still have the family she deserves. Perhaps an arrangement of some kind. Many couples find creative solutions to these situations. It took me a moment to process what they were suggesting. An arrangement. Are you actually proposing that my wife should have a child with another man, with your blessing? Not like that, exactly. My father backpedaled unconvincingly. But if Amanda wants children, and you cannot provide them, and what would that make me? I demanded, my voice rising. The understanding husband who raises another man's child while pretending it does not destroy me. Is that what you want for your son? We want you both to be happy, my mother insisted. Sometimes that requires sacrifice. The sacrifice being my dignity, my self-respect, my marriage vows. I looked at Amanda, who was studying the tablecloth intently. Is this what you want too? Amanda finally met my gaze, her eyes conflicted. I do not know what I want anymore, Kent. I just know I cannot keep living in limbo, mourning the children we will never have together. Together, I repeated. So you are considering having them with someone else? She did not deny it. Neither did my parents. In that moment of silence, everything became crystalline clear. They had been discussing this behind my back, plotting a future where Amanda would have the children she wanted, my parents would have the grandchildren they craved, and I would be expected to either accept this betrayal or step aside. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. I need some air. Without waiting for a response, I walked out onto my parents' back porch, the same porch where I had played as a child, where my father had taught me to tie fishing knots, where my mother had bandaged scraped knees. It now felt like foreign territory. I heard the door open behind me and turned, expecting Amanda. Instead, it was my father, his expression uncertain. Son, you need to be practical about this, he began. Your condition. It changes things. Amanda is still young. She has a right to have children if she wants them, and I do not have a right to a faithful wife, to parents who support me, instead of conspiring behind my back. My voice broke. Would you have said the same to Mom, if she had been the one who could not have children? Would you have suggested she step aside so you could have children with someone else? My father looked away. That is different. How? How is it different? A woman without children is unfortunate. A man without children is a failure. He spoke the words matter-of-factly, as if stating an obvious truth. In that moment, I saw my father clearly, for perhaps the first time, a man bound by rigid, outdated ideas of manhood and legacy. A man who loved his son conditionally based on his ability to fulfill an expected role rather than for who he was as a person. I am not a failure, I said quietly. The only failure here is in how quickly the people who claimed to love me unconditionally turned their backs when I could not give them what they wanted. I brushed past him and returned to the dining room. Amanda and my mother looked up, their conspiratorial posture, confirming everything I suspected. I am leaving, I announced. Not just dinner. I need some time to think about whether I want to remain connected to people who value me so little. The following week revealed the full extent of the betrayal. After moving into a hotel, I received a call from a colleague who had seen Amanda at a restaurant with a man looking very intimate. With a sick feeling, I did some investigating and confirmed what I had suspected. Justin, her college friend, had been in regular contact with her for months. Further devastation came when I returned to our house to collect more clothes and found preliminary divorce papers in Amanda's desk drawer, dated 3 weeks earlier. She had been planning this, preparing her exit, while pretending to be considering her options. When confronted, Amanda did not even attempt to deny it. Justin and I reconnected through alumni events, she admitted. It started as friendship, someone to talk to about my disappointment. Then it became more. He wants children too, Kent, and he can give them to me, and my parents. How long have they known about him? Amanda looked away. Your mother asked me directly if there was someone else. I did not lie to her. She understood. Said sometimes these things happen for a reason. The final piece clicked into place when she added, Justin and I are thinking about using the same attorney your mother recommended. My own mother had not only accepted my wife's affair, but had actively facilitated it, providing resources to help dissolve my marriage. I felt something break inside me that day. Not my heart, which was already shattered, but perhaps my naivety, my blind trust in family bonds. I had built my life around making these people proud, seeking their approval, believing their love was a constant I could depend on. The revelation that this love was actually conditional based on my ability to fulfill their expectations rather than on who I was as a person left me adrift. At my lowest point, feeling utterly abandoned and worthless, I received an unexpected message from Thomas, my college roommate. We had drifted apart over the years but maintained occasional contact. He was passing through Boston for a conference and suggested meeting for a drink. Having nothing to lose and desperate for any human connection that was not tainted by betrayal, I agreed. Thomas had been through a brutal divorce years earlier, and somehow news of my situation had reached him through mutual friends. Over whiskeys in a dimly lit bar, I poured out the whole story, expecting the same judgment I had received from everyone else. Instead, Thomas looked me in the eye and said words that began my healing. Kent, your worth is not determined by your sperm count. The people who make you believe that are the ones with the problem, not you. That simple statement, delivered without pity, but with firm conviction, was the first step in reclaiming my sense of self. Thomas shared his own journey through betrayal and rebuilding, how he had discovered parts of himself he never knew existed, once he stopped trying to be what others expected. The question you need to ask, he said, as we parted that night, is what do you want from your life, now that you are free from expectations that were never really about your happiness? I did not have an answer that night, but the question illuminated a path forward. I decided to fight not for a marriage that had proven hollow, not for the approval of parents who had shown their true conditional love, but for my own dignity and future. The first step was contacting an attorney to protect myself in the divorce. Thomas recommended Sarah, the lawyer who had helped him navigate his own split. Sarah was direct, practical, and surprisingly empathetic. When she reviewed the financial records I provided, her eyes narrowed. There have been unusual withdrawals from your joint investment account over the past 2 months, she noted, and these credit card charges for attorney consultations preceded the date on the divorce papers. Amanda appears to have been planning this carefully. Further investigation revealed that Amanda and Justin had already put a deposit on an apartment together using money from our joint savings. Amanda had also been researching how marital assets were divided in Massachusetts, with particular attention to my retirement accounts and the equity in our home. What had begun as a painful personal betrayal now revealed itself as something more calculated. With Sarah's guidance, I moved to protect what was rightfully mine, documenting the timeline of Amanda's affair and her financial maneuvers. When Amanda realized I was not going to roll over and accept whatever terms she dictated, her attitude shifted from regretful to hostile. This could have been amicable, she accused during a tense phone call. Amicable, I replied, finding strength in my anger. Was it amicable when you and my parents discussed your affair over tiramisu? When you used our money to secure an apartment with your lover? When you consulted divorce attorneys while still telling me you were thinking things over? Her silence was confirmation enough. For the first time since the fertility diagnosis, I felt a sense of power returning. I might not be able to give Amanda or my parents what they wanted, but I could refuse to be their victim. The divorce proceedings were complicated but ultimately fair, thanks to Sarah's skilled representation. I retained most of my retirement savings and received my fair share of the house equity. More importantly, I walked away with my dignity intact, having refused to accept the narrative that I was somehow less of a man or less deserving of loyalty because of a medical condition beyond my control. The months following the divorce were a time of profound rebuilding. On Thomas' suggestion, I joined a support group for men dealing with infertility, something I had resisted due to embarrassment and societal stigma. In that group, I met men from all walks of life, all struggling with the same feelings of inadequacy and shame, many also dealing with relationship fallout from their condition. Listening to their stories helped normalize my experience and put it in perspective. Some had partners who stood by them unwaveringly. Others had, like me, discovered the conditional nature of what they thought was unconditional love. Through their experiences, I began to see my own situation not as a personal failing, but as a revelation of character in those around me. One man in the group, Marcus, worked at a local children's home and suggested I might find healing as he had through mentoring children who needed positive male influences. With nothing to lose, I contacted the center and began volunteering on weekends, helping with computer classes for the residents. It was there I met Jack, an 8-year-old boy with a quick mind and insatiable curiosity about technology. Abandoned by his mother as a toddler, and with no known father, Jack had bounced between foster homes before landing at the center. Despite his difficult start in life, he maintained an openness and enthusiasm that I found both heartbreaking and inspiring. During one of our Saturday coding sessions, Jack looked up from the simple game we were building and asked, "Will you be here next week too? Some volunteers do not come back." The question carried the weight of his experience with adults who disappeared from his life. "I will be here," I promised, and meant it more deeply than I had expected to. As weeks turned into months, Jack and I developed a bond that went beyond the volunteer relationship. He began saving coding problems to show me, proudly demonstrating his progress between our sessions. I found myself looking forward to our time together, planning projects that would challenge and engage him. Meanwhile, my professional life took an unexpected turn. The focus I had redirected into my work after the collapse of my personal life led to a promotion and a new project developing medical software for fertility clinics. The irony was not lost on me, but I found purpose in creating tools that might help others navigate the difficult journey I had experienced. It was through this project that I conceived of a mobile app to connect people struggling with infertility with information about adoption and foster care. The initial concept expanded to include a platform where prospective parents could learn about specific children awaiting adoption, similar to how Jack and other children at the center waited for permanent families. The development of this app brought Natalie into my life. A psychologist specializing in adoption transitions, she was brought in as a consultant to ensure the platform was sensitive to the needs of both children and prospective parents. From our first meeting, I was struck by her combination of professional expertise and personal warmth. The key is to remember that adoption is not about finding children for families, but finding families for children, she explained during one of our development sessions. The focus needs to be on the child's needs, not the adult's desires. Her perspective shifted something fundamental in my understanding of parenthood. I had been so caught up in the genetics of continuing a bloodline that I had missed the more meaningful aspect of parenting, guiding, and nurturing a young life toward adulthood. As we worked closely on the project, Natalie and I developed a friendship based on mutual respect and shared values. Unlike the early intensity of my relationship with Amanda, this connection grew slowly and thoughtfully. When she eventually shared that she too could not have biological children due to treatment for childhood leukemia, it was not a dramatic revelation but simply another facet of who she was, a strong, compassionate woman who had made peace with her circumstances and found purpose in helping children who needed homes. Our first date outside of work was a casual lunch that stretched into a 4-hour conversation. We took things slowly, both carrying wounds from the past, both cautious about new attachments. But the foundation was solid, an honest appreciation of each other, as complete people, not as means to fulfill some biological imperative or social expectation. 6 months into this new chapter of my life, I received an unexpected call. My father was in the hospital after a heart attack. Despite everything that had happened, I found myself driving to the suburban hospital where he lay, recovering, uncertain what I would say or feel when I saw him. My mother was in the waiting room, looking smaller and older than I remembered. When she saw me, her face crumpled. "Kent," she whispered. "You came." "Hes still my father," I said simply. When I entered his room, my father was awake, but weak tubes and monitors surrounding his diminished frame. His eyes widened at the sight of me. "Son," he said, his voice raspy, "I did not expect you. Neither did I." I admitted, taking the chair beside his bed. We sat in uncomfortable silence until he spoke again. "Facing your mortality changes your perspective, makes you see where you went wrong." He reached for my hand, something he had rarely done even when I was a child. "I failed you, Kent. Put my own desires ahead of your happiness. Made you feel like less of a man, less of a son because of something you could not control." The apology was unexpected, and I found myself unsure how to respond. Part of me wanted to reject it to protect the hard shell I had built around the wound of his betrayal. Another part recognized the courage it took for him to admit his failure. "I was wrong," he continued, when I did not speak. "About what makes a man, about what makes a family. Your mother and I have done a lot of talking since. Everything. She regrets her part in it too." "And Amanda?" I asked, needing to know the full extent of their current relationship. "We have not spoken to her since learning what she did with your joint finances." That was a wake-up call about her character. He paused, wincing slightly at what appeared to be physical pain. We were so focused on having a grandchild that we did not consider what kind of person would be raising that grandchild. We chose poorly when we sided with her over our own son. It was not a perfect apology. It contained seeds of the same problematic thinking. Their judgment of Amanda was based not on how she had treated me, but on how her actions had affected them. Still, it was a start, an acknowledgement of wrongdoing that opened a door I had assumed was permanently closed. Over the following weeks, as my father recovered, I established cautious, limited contact with my parents. I was clear about my boundaries, unwilling to fully trust again, but open to the possibility of a new, more honest relationship. They met Natalie at a brief lunch, and while the interaction was somewhat stiff, they made visible efforts to see her as a person, rather than evaluating her as a potential mother of grandchildren. 4 months later, Jack celebrated his 9th birthday with a small party at the Children's Center. I had invited Natalie, who had met him several times through her work and my volunteering. As we watched him blow out the candles on his robot-shaped cake, she leaned close to me. "He lights up around you," she observed. "You have become his safe person." The center's director had recently approached me about becoming Jack's official mentor through their program, which would allow him to spend weekends and holidays with me. Looking at his excited face as he opened the coding kit I had given him, I found myself contemplating a bigger step. Natalie seemed to read my thoughts. "Have you considered becoming a foster parent? Or even adoption?" "Eventually, I have been thinking about it," I admitted. "But it's a big responsibility. I would want to be sure I was doing it for the right reasons." She nodded. "The right reason is simple: loving him and wanting to give him a stable home. Jack does not need a perfect father. He needs someone who will show up consistently and care about him for who he is, not what he represents." Her words echoed what I had learned through my own painful journey, the value of love that is truly unconditional, that does not depend on fulfilling expectations or biological imperatives. 3 weeks later, I submitted my application to become Jack's foster parent, the first step in what might eventually lead to adoption. The process would be lengthy and involved, but I was committed to seeing it through, to creating a family defined not by blood, but by choice and love. When Jack learned of my application, his initial reaction was cautious, hope mingled with fear of disappointment. "Do you really want me to live with you?" "For real. For real," I confirmed. "If that's what you want too." His hug was answer enough. In a surprising development, my parents offered to help prepare their old guest room for Jack to use during weekend visits while the foster application was being processed. It was a tentative olive branch, an effort to be part of this new definition of family I was creating. As I helped my father assemble a desk for the room, he paused, hands resting on the half-built furniture. "I was wrong about so many things, Kent, but mostly about what makes a man a father. It's not about passing on your DNA. It's about shaping a life, being there when it matters." I thought of Jack, of how his face lit up when he mastered a new coding concept, of his thoughtful questions and his resilience in the face of early abandonment. I thought of Natalie, whose strength and compassion had shown me a different kind of partnership than what I had known with Amanda. I thought of Thomas and the support group of Sarah and her fierce advocacy on my behalf. "I am learning that too," I replied. "Family is something you build, not just something you are born into. And sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the one you inherit." My journey from devastation to rebuilding taught me that our worth does not lie in our biological capabilities or in meeting others' expectations. True family unconditionally accepts and supports us through every challenge. Real love does not vanish when circumstances change. If my story resonates with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear they are enough exactly as they are. Drop a comment about a time someone stood by you when it mattered most. Like this video if you believe family is about love, not genetics. Subscribe for more stories about finding strength through life's unexpected challenges. Thank you for listening. And remember, your value is never defined by what you cannot do, but by who you choose to be.